Alors, bon après-midi à vous tous et toutes. Et merci Marvin de l'invitation. Et aussi, je tiens à remercier Marvin parce qu'évidemment, quand il m'a présenté la motion, il allait de soi. C'était très important de l'appuyer et je suis contente que cette motion, on ait pu la présenter. Je ne veux pas m'éterniser parce que je pense que ce qui est important, c'est de souligner qu'en tant que mairesse d'un arrondissement où il y a une très grande proportion de personnes qui sont d'origine immigrante, et moi-même, par exemple, issue de l'immigration, il est important d'être ici fermement comme une alliée. It's important for me to be here, first of all, to thank Marvin for having the courage of writing this proposition, and I, of course, wholeheartedly supported him. And what needs to be noted is that I'm here as an ally. What's important is to hear the people who are facing the systemic racism, to stand out and to talk. This is what I wish, and this is why I'm happy to see that different people from the communities are here and speaking out. And for them to know that I am an ally as the mayor of the Board of Villeray-Saint Michel Park Extension. And I will be pushing for, to make sure that systemic racism, we manage to break it, because it is not normal that it exists. And in all spheres of our lives, also with regards to the police, to the STM, but also in terms of employment. We have a responsibility as city councilors and mayors to make sure that that is broken and that we permit people who live in Montreal and who are from the diverse communities to have access to employment within the city. Alors, il est important que vous sachiez à nouveau, je suis une alliée et il est important que les gens se joignent à nous pour que cette coalition soit plus large encore et que les gens qui sont issus des diverses communautés puissent avoir accès et puissent s'exprimer pour qu'ensemble, on puisse faire tomber toutes ces barrières de discrimination systémique. Merci.
Take a couple of minutes just to step back and address my comments a little bit to Canadians who are white, who perhaps don't fully understand the stakes here, and to recognize the toll that doing anti-racist work can take. So last week in my institute at Concordia University, I returned from teaching a comparative politics class to find 2 posters put up in my institute, both of which said, "It's okay to be white." Now, I reported these posters to my to the authorities, to the security at Concordia, and only later learned that in fact these are part of a much larger movement among the alt-right to in effect denounce efforts to reduce and bring to an end systemic racism in our society, in Canada as well as in the United States. And so I just wanted to start my remarks, which will be very brief, by saying that this is a fundamental struggle, and that those who are waging that struggle, and I really point and really want to shout out to the folks who are here, who've been engaging in this work for so many years, that this is hard work and that it does come at a cost, because you are on the front lines and you are receiving all too often the impact of what is hate, whether online or in real time. But I also want to note, and again, this is again to white Canadians, what racial profiling looks like. And I want to give 2 very short examples from my neighborhood, which is Outremont, a largely white neighborhood in Montreal. So about 3 years ago, good friends and neighbors of mine were sitting in their car in the driveway of the grandmother of one of my friends when police stopped and came up to them and said, "What are you doing here?" Well, the fact that they happened to be black had a lot to do with the questioning that they started to receive sitting in their grandmother's driveway. And by the way, they also just live a few blocks away, okay? So that's just an example that took place a couple of blocks from my home. About 3 years ago as well, my daughter, who's white, was walking home from the dollar store after picking some things up for her Halloween costume. It was a little bit cold. She was wearing shorts and a long shirt, and she borrowed a pair of high heels without my knowing it from my closet. Well, she was pulled over by an officer and asked what she was doing, where she was going, and where she lived. Now, this officer then came to our home and followed up with me by telephone. Now, I want you to stop and think for a moment. If I had been Black, and our family had been Black, or South Asian, or Indigenous, what do you think might have happened in the days that followed? Well, perhaps there would have been a call to Youth Protection Services, right? Perhaps there would have been further interventions. As it was, I'm the principal of the Simone de Beauvoir Institute. I put that officer in his place very quickly because I have a great deal of professional prestige and social status which allow me, along with my whiteness, to say, forget it, you're out of line here in what you're doing. But this is what all too many racialized people in Montreal experience on a day-to-day basis, as you've just heard from so many of the panelists who are sitting here. And that is why we're here today. I do want to make a final note, though, and that is with regards to the specific issues that racialized sex workers face in our city. They are subject to hyper-policing and surveillance in a way in which perhaps no other population in our city is. And in particular, this has been the case since the passage of the 2014 new laws regulating sex work in Canada. And I would say that although my institute in the long term is looking for the decriminalization of sex work, and I should say that is the position of the Simone de Beauvoir Institute and not of the coalition. But I do want to say, alongside my colleagues, that the clear call, not just for further data, but in fact for systemic training is needed, not only with respect to race, but also with particular ideas about sex work and this idea of protection, and how these particular ideas often drive sex workers underground and into positions of greater danger and injustice. And so in closing, again, I just want to say thank you for all of your work, and the Simone de Beauvoir Institute is here, and we hope to support you however we can moving forward. Thank you.